This is a Course in Miracles. It is a required course. Only the time you take it is voluntary. Free will does not mean that you can establish the curriculum. It means only that you can elect what you want to take at a given time. The course does not aim at teaching the meaning of love, for that is beyond what can be taught. It does aim, however, at removing the blocks to the awareness of love's presence, which is your natural inheritance. The opposite of love is fear, but what is all-encompassing can have no opposite. This course can therefore be summed up very simply in this way. Nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God.
People, we have a mythology of freedom. It's a mythology of freedom. Mm-hmm. God's not interested in our mythology of freedom, only interested in true freedom. And true freedom is to live in forms and to live in the world but not of it, to not be burdened and crushed by form.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Now, if forms are...
And preferences.
Right, forms and preferences. Hey, honey, how come you're packing up? Spirit, talk to me. I'm out of here. You know, I'm not taking the car. I'm just going to walk down to the interstate and hitchhike somewhere. Don't keep up with me. I'm free. That's not freedom. That's a punch as well. That's being a slave to formalities. We've become addicted.
I know. And then the strangest thing is, there's like St. Francis who just strips his clothes in front of his father.
He didn't dump his kids.
No, he didn't have any children.
And when Buddha dumped his kid, Buddha did dump his kid. I have a little judgment about the Buddha for that. Uh-huh. But if Buddha dumped his kid, so what's the story there? Different time, different culture, different space. When Buddha left, he left the form of what he was as a prince. But no one sacrificed, okay? Kid didn't sacrifice. Wife didn't sacrifice. Right. Family didn't sacrifice. The only one that sacrificed when Buddha did that was himself. And I'm saying, and if that's a mythology I'm inventing right here on the spot, I say it's important because...
No, we need to understand those because you're right.
We have to be aware of the mythologies that we have been steeped in for so long about what is freedom, what is marriage, what is relationship, what is duty, all these kinds of things.
Right. And we have all these other stories, and you say, well, so-and-so did that, and so-and-so did that, and so then we want to get on the board. You have to know what God is saying to you if you become enlightened for a day.
This is the typical thing. Swami, I'm so conflicted. I have this family, but should I go up into the Himalayas and meditate for my enlightenment? Because I met you, and now my life has changed, and I'm doing all this great stuff. He says... If you wouldn't be asking me about it, you would be up there. If you're supposed to be meditating in the Himalayas, you wouldn't be asking me. In other words, there is a natural movement. And if somebody has to ask questions, then there's a chance it's unnatural. We can't explore all the possibilities with that. Right. I guess my point of it all is we have to be aware of the mythologies that we have been steeped in for so long about what is freedom, what is marriage, what is relationship, what is duty, all these kinds of things.
Right. And we have all these other stories, and you say, well, so-and-so did that, and so-and-so did that, and so then we want to get on the board. You have to know what God is saying to you if you become enlightened for a day. Okay. I said, delay will hurt you now. So we don't want to delay more than before, only because you realize it is delay. That's it. That's there is an urgency that comes in, but only the urgency is the dislodging of the mind from its fixed position here, the fixed position on the form, on the illusion. Dislodge the mind. It's just, I try to imagine what that is. It's like there's a big crowd up there of furniture and everything else, and something comes through and goes, it presses everything outside, dislodging the mind. It has to get quiet.
Okay, let's take 1 second. Let's take 1 second with that thought. Right now, as this video is being made, there is some concern or situation with various geopolitical realities, and that it looks like, you can call it, there's a lot of talk about World War III. If you Google World War III, you've got lots of hits.
Right.
So there's a lot of people saying there's going to be a World War III, and there's all these kinds of things happening. Now, let's think about this in terms of the Course in Miracles. I've had many dreams. It sounds like I'm shifting. I'm not. I'm using this as an illustration. I have many dreams where I have rows of mushroom clouds going off in the background. They're not really affecting me, but things are being obliterated at a very atomic scale, a huge scale, nuclear scale, and that's upheavals in my own life that are manifesting in the dream world as nuclear bombs. Now, the situation we're in, if we are in a tectonic shift of awareness, of consciousness, it's the grace of God. It's not us. It's not me doing it. It's not Putin doing it. It's not Xi Jinping or Trump or somebody else, Modi or whatever. It's none of these characters, these players doing it. It's the grace of God is appearing. It will take form. You understand? It will have to take a form. It won't be, the gates of heaven are open, and now there's a magical stairway that rolls out, and we all just kind of walk up to heaven. It's not going to look like that. It's going to look like the
dismantling.
The image that you project onto it is going to be your image of dismantling.
Yeah.
And our image of dismantling right now is world war. That's our image of dismantling. So you have to be aware, this is a symbolic vocabulary coming at us. It may or may not be a real deal. If you're doing the Course in Miracles, you can sit calmly and say, World War III, what does it mean? Okay, what does it mean? It's words, it's names, it's labels. Now, yes, obviously, if you're in the day after movie and the nuclear cloud is coming through and all your glass blows out and your skin falls off,
you're
then,
dead. Now you've transitioned.
Hey, that was the real deal.
You're transitioned. You're out of your body.
But for now, if the world is being destabilized, as we are destabilized, it's said in this.
Yes.
In a personal life, it can look like upheavals in dreams or interrelationship things. And it's saying, calm down with the destabilization. And because we're in a situation now where there's this World War III, geopolitical upheaval, whatever, shifting into another kind of world is going to have all kinds of formal aspects. And depending on your or my personal prejudices, it will take various forms that could offend me or attract me.
You're right.
Right?
Yeah, I agree.
But it is a play of form. And all we have to, I'd say that the takeaway from the situation now is that we are in an upheaval, and it is tectonic, and that I do have the ability to either collapse the wave function, as they say, onto World War III. I can collapse the wave of, hey, what do you got here? World War III, that's what I call it. Or don't collapse the wave function. Let it be upheaval. Let it be upheaval. Let it pulse on the horizon as wars and rumors of wars, words. Let it come in as an impression and just cool out, buddy. You don't know. Until your skin falls off, you don't know what it is. You don't know what it is.
Right. I agree.
Okay. Like that?
Yeah. Paragraph 9. Nothing you seek to strengthen in the special relationship is really part of you. And you cannot keep part of the thought system that taught you it was real and understand the thought that knows what you are. You have allowed the thought of your reality to enter your mind, and because you invited it, it will abide with you. Your love for it will not allow you to betray yourself, and you could not enter into a relationship where it could not go with you, for you would not want to be apart from it.
The whole paragraph just went away. What is it saying?
Okay, so this is the thought that God holds of us, in it knows what you are. So that thought, which we are one with that thought, and as the Christed being, as the Holy Son. So nothing you seek to strengthen in the special relationship is really part of you. So what would I seek to strengthen in a special relationship?
let's say I get strength of security by being with you. Okay, I'm gonna somehow I want that to be stronger. That's not really a part of me. You cannot keep part of the thought system that taught you it was real and understand. Okay, you cannot keep a part of the thought system that's a lowercase thought system that taught you it was real, the illusion was real, and understand the thought, capital T, that knows what you are. So that's the thought that God had, the extension that is the sun,
Right.
that knows what you are. You have allowed the thought, the sonship, God, of your reality to enter your mind. It's saying that at this point in the Course, you've allowed this idea of the thought of being a son of God to enter my mind.
It's real.
And because you
Take it
invited it
seriously.
in, it will abide with you. Because you've invited it in, it's now with you.
So it's now starting to dictate what can happen.
Yes. So the thoughts now, as you're reading the Course, once you get to this point in the Course in reading, so we're at chapter 16, I think this is like halfway through. There's like 30 chapters, I think. And so it's saying that if you've been practicing this up to this point, you have impregnated your mind with the idea of being a holy son of God. You've impregnated that mind. And now that you've invited that thought in, you're starting to be changed just by allowing it in.
Well,
Your love for it will not allow you to betray yourself. And you might have had some instances now where you've felt those miracle things that are happening, those spontaneous little synchronicities, whatever they are. If you've been practicing it, you'll see that there are days when you practice it to its T as much as possible, that the witnesses that are coming in are telling you about yourself. They're telling you truly about the self. They're not, and reinforcing that. So your love for it will not allow you to betray yourself, and you could not enter into a relationship where it could not go with you, for you would not want to be apart from it.
So it acts as a natural filter of the kinds of relationships and the kind of setups that you're going to have going forward.
Yeah,
It
and
starts to
also
filter
the
them.
distinction between the things of the illusion, the judgments, the separateness, my ideas of this, that, and the other thing are becoming more apparent. I'm beginning to see how I'm participating in the illusion in certain ways. And when I'm upset and everything else, I can see better how I created my upset, how this is coming in this way. And therefore, I can make a decision for heaven, for the Holy Spirit. I can make a decision. Whereas prior to this, my practice is not good enough to have known that I actually really love the self. At this point, I love the brothers who I used to have ideas about that are showing up as witnesses.
They become more real. The world around me actually the world in terms of the sonship.
Yes.
Starts to become more real to me, and it's less me as opposed to this fantasy
me
of
against
a life.
the world. It's not me against the world. It's me saying, wow, the world's talking to me, just like you've said before. The world is talking to me. It's like a heartbeat talking to me, and it's inviting me to have a change of mind so that I will see it differently.
Right.
So that's what I think that whole paragraph is about.
Well, that's great. In the first two lines, nothing you seek to strengthen in the special relationship is really part of you. It's almost like I have a prosthesis, or, let's say I value my car, I value a false arm, or any prosthetic, anything that's bringing me value falsely because it's an appendage of some sort.
Right.
And it's saying nothing you seek to strengthen is really a part of you. So the special relationship is a prosthesis. It is an appendage. It's not really a part
Only in the mind of
me.
Yeah, it's not a part of the self.
And you cannot keep part of the thought system that taught you it was real and understand the thought system that is your real self.
Yeah.
That knows what you are. So that if I insist on maintaining my prosthetics, my prostheses, if I insist on keeping my world intact, bringing it together, holding it together, holding the pieces together, even though I feel that I'm losing interest in those things. I'm losing interest. I have different value system in there. And I just artificially try to reinforce that stuff. I won't be able, that thought won't be able to come in, the one that knows what I am. But, as you said, having made the invitation, and that bridge is starting to happen maybe seemingly in some ways against my will. In other words, there could be pain.
Well,
Because I made the invitation.
yeah, there could be a sort of a resistance from the ego as the bridge starts to, the cross between the two worlds begins to, get muddled or whatever else. There could be some resistance because the sense of the self-identity that the ego has gets afraid. It just does. What can I say?
Okay, paragraph 10. Be glad you have escaped the mockery of salvation the ego offered you, and look not back with longing on the travesty it made of your relationships. Now no one need suffer, for you have come too far to yield to the illusion of the beauty and holiness of guilt. Only the holy and sane could look on death and suffering, sickness and despair, and see it thus. What guilt has wrought is ugly, fearful, and very dangerous. See no illusion of truth and beauty there. And be you thankful that there is a place where truth and beauty wait for you. Go on to meet them gladly, and learn how much awaits you for the simple willingness to give up nothing, because it is nothing. So this is more on the reorganization.
Yeah, and again, this is the whole bridge. It's describing now. It's describing the bridge of what this feels like. That you're now no need to suffer, for you have come too far to yield to the illusion and the beauty.
No one needs suffer. Okay,
yeah, no one needs
no
suffer.
one needs suffer. Can you believe that? That if you experience freedom and release, and if you answer the call and you do all these things, nobody's going to suffer.
Right.
Nobody needs suffer. Now you can't just, as I said, walk away from the forms of your life and say, I turn my back on them. There has to be an inner awakeness to this.
Right. And sometimes it ends up turning the back. It just depends. I mean, everyone's individual stories are different. I wouldn't say which way it needs to go.
We don't.
personally.
Okay. Yeah, you don't know.
You don't
know.
Yeah.
I guess what I tend to err on the side of being conservative in this, and I want to say that the tendency is more often doping myself on getting high on freedom and formlessness than it is losing the value of form because I've received a genuine message from Spirit.
Right.
The tendency is, the usual situation is not, hey, I really heard from Spirit and now I'm really going to walk this walk, or whatever it is. That's less common than using the Course in Miracles and all this stuff to justify blowing stuff up, hitting the road, and just doing whatever you're going to do. I mean, most of the Course in Miracle books that I have read tend towards blowing stuff up, walking away from it. It's Gail Sheehy's book. What was her book? I can't remember what it was. But anyway, every single person in her book, Passages by Gail Sheehy, every single person in that book, it seemed like, was some person put upon by the forms of their life, chunked it all, grew their hair long, took up photography, met a great lover, and had a great life. Almost everybody in there. And I think that that's a mythology we live with. Anyway, I've said it enough.
Yes. All right. Paragraph 11. The new perspective you will gain from crossing over will be the understanding of where heaven is. From this side, it seems to be outside and across the bridge. Yet, as you cross to join it, it will join with you and become one with you. And you will think in glad astonishment that for all this you gave up nothing. The joy of heaven, which has no limit, is increased with each light that returns to take its rightful place within it. Wait no longer for the love of God and you, and may the holy instant speed you on the way, as it will surely do if you but let it come to you. And there it is, that willingness. Let it come to you. And so there's nothing to fear there, because the recognition of the truth of what you are is a remembering. For me, it was just totally, oh my gosh, I don't believe that I did not know this. How is it possible that this was kept from me and from the rest of the world? I was actually kind of shocked.
Well, where is heaven right now, speaking now, rather
Heaven's
than
right
in
here.
the past? Where is heaven?
It's right.
Where is heaven? It says it. The new perspective you will gain from crossing over will be the understanding of where heaven is. So we're talking about, now I understand where heaven is.
It's a dimensional shift in perception. Heaven is right. I mean, it doesn't, in other words, you don't have to die.
It doesn't have anything to do with forms.
It doesn't have to do with forms. It has to do with dislodging those things of the mind.
Forms are epiphenomenon. In other words, forms are dependent on essences, not vice versa.
Right.
You don't create forms and essence follows. You have essence first, substance, content, and then after that, form emerges. So that if you change internally, there's no reason to force any changes formally on you. That happens spontaneously. The new perspective you will gain from crossing over will be the understanding of where heaven is. I'm saying that heaven isn't a journey of getting a Land Rover and, equipping it with a shortwave radio and then heading out into the Arizona desert.
No.
That's just a trip.
It's a trip.
It's another trip. It's a special trip, by the way. From this side, it seems to be outside and across the bridge. It seems like I have a bridge to go across. But
and they talk about that it's a transition. So the mind is now beginning to shift. If you're allowing to invite in the holy instant, and it's the very last line, and may the holy instant speed you on the way, as it will surely do if you but let it come to you. So it's saying that we're the ones who hold up that wall. We're the ones who have the fear to let the light in that allows us to see the light that we already are. We're the ones who are doing this. We're creating that through our attraction to guilt, our attraction to the special relationship. Well, what if I... No. It's what everyone will have to go through in order to awaken.
If God, the architect of this experience when it comes right down to it, the Holy Spirit, Jesus Christ, the sonship, if I say yes to this and I go forward, you will know that you are following. There will not be a sense of sacrifice.
Right.
Sacrifice will not be a part of it. So if I fear the sacrifices,
the ego is entered in.
There's something else going on there that is not this bridge, this calling. Because it said, it seems like I've got to cross this Golden Gate bridge over to reality. And when I first put my foot on it, suddenly it's in my face. I didn't go anywhere.
Right.
I didn't sacrifice anything. And it's on me. It's on me as a thing. And I say to myself, as it says here, wow, I didn't really do anything. I didn't really do anything.
Right, you didn't do anything. There's a whole section that's called I need do nothing.
No, this is difficult to understand because there's such a big fat book and it's got so many words and so many ideas that there's this sense of having to hurdle things. And what happens is when that step is taken in whatever level of sincerity, whatever the forms of that look like within myself, the forms, whether it's just doing the course or some other tradition, that thing hits me in the face. It's right there. And I go, suddenly, everything was undone. Suddenly. And it says it, in the twinkling of an eye, in a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, heaven is upon you in this situation. Now, and that also goes with this other conversation about geopolitics and World War III, is that when you make the bridge and you accept that there's no scale of difficulty in miracles.
Right. There's
no scale in difficulty.
Right.
And just wait for it. Wait for it. Because where two or more are gathered,
there's love.
We get what we want.
No, get what you want. I don't know about that.
No.
Okay.
I said that.
Yes. Is there anything else?
The
recognition that you give up nothing. I mean, in the dawning of the mind, where that happens, you recognize you gave up nothing. You give up nothing to participate in knowing thyself.
This whole section, these last few
Mm-hmm.
paragraphs, it reminds me of you go into a used car lot and the guy has been fishing you for a long time, just trying to reel you in.
Yeah.
And then he sees a twinkle in your eye and he goes, I sold the car.
I know.
All other conversations, turns into another thing. He starts talking about the wife and kids. He starts talking about this. The whole conversation shifts because he knows he's got you on the hook. That's what this feels like.
Yeah.
It feels like the speaker says, if you got it this far, I got you on the hook. And we're just,
we're going to.
we don't have to work you anymore.
Yeah.
Now you're willingly jumping in the boat.
Yeah, I agree. I actually agree with that. Okay, paragraph 12. This is the last one.
The Holy Spirit asks only this little help of you. Whenever your thoughts wander to a special relationship which still attracts you, enter with him into a holy instant, and there let him release you. He needs only your willingness to share his perspective, to give it to you completely. And your willingness need not be complete.
Isn't that
because
interesting?
he is perfect. It is his task to atone for your unwillingness by his perfect faith, and it is his faith you share with him there. Out of your recognition of your unwillingness for your release, his perfect willingness is given you. Call upon him, for heaven is at his call, and let him call on heaven for you. Now, if you think that this is just pretty words, it just totally makes sense to me. We're in this problem. Do you believe there's perfection or not? Do you believe in perfection? Do you believe in perfection?
I do believe in perfection.
Because belief in perfection is saying, well, because why? Why should I believe in perfection? Nothing about this house, nothing about this body, nothing is perfect.
Right.
Logically, you can say, then you get into Plato and his ideal forms and the perfection of some other realm of which this is an epiphenomenon. All I'm saying is here we have this perfection. And
You can be in a bombed-out basement in a wartime, and perfection can dawn on the mind. I'm not saying that I would want
Right.
to be there.
Okay.
But something happens when all of a sudden it's like
all things work. Everything works.
a person sometimes in a devastating moment goes, I guess this is it. I guess it's all over. And in that moment of non-attachment to all the things and all the forms of this world, there stands the peace of God. And so sometimes it takes quite tragic experiences for the ego to let go.
You know, Byron Katie, it would be worth it.
I'd say unfortunately.
Right. Well, it would be worth it to find out, to read Byron Katie's biography. She did the work, and I think she's great. I think that she's actually, quote unquote, an enlightened being or had an enlightened experience that brought the work, the 4 questions,
Right.
into reality. She's got this story, and I can't remember it exactly, where she was a real estate agent or something like that, super alpha type, mom, and that was just a battle axe, very tough broad, she's a very, very tough lady. And her life became more and more difficult, and she started to spiral down. Different things happened. I think her marriage broke up, and her kids were on drugs, or I don't know what happened, but things started to tank. Everything was going down around her, and she's a control freak. She ends up in a halfway house, and she's sitting on the floor in a run-down, dusty basement in his halfway house, having collapsed, having gone from being a super alpha, super earner, A-type person, triple A. She's sitting on the floor. Her hair's all oily, hanging in her face. She's overweight. She's completely wrecked psychologically. She's sitting on the floor, and she says a cockroach crawls across the floor and crawls up on her toe. And she's sitting there looking at this cockroach on her toe, and something broke. And all of the dominoes fell. All the dominoes of tension and of difficulty and of disaster started collapsing. And she went into the bathroom and she started laughing. People say it's a schizo break with reality. She starts laughing of what? The absurdity. I've come from being super whatever to now the cockroach on the toe. My life is an absolute disaster, and yet I persist. What is it? She goes in the bathroom and looks at herself in the mirror, and she said she did not recognize herself. She did not recognize that beautiful creature that was looking apart. Now, this is a lady with, she looks like hell. And that was her enlightened experience, where I can't remember why I went into that. I think it's just the way
the release. There's a release. I went into it because I said the awakening can happen sometimes in the most what we would appear to be horrific things.
Well, then that's what I was saying is I thought that she has a very poignant, wonderful hopeful way of looking at it is that if you make the invitation in some form in your mind, and you're taken to the brink and you realize none of this is working, none of my strategies work, this only got me here, there's nothing here worth anything, I don't have anything left, and you don't have to go to that point.
No, you don't.
You can do it right now.
I can only
it's
say
always
that
available.
we don't have to. And the ego is sometimes just so persistent in its need to hang on to his kingdom and its specialness that it will take some of us, and I've done that, to, hang on to reality of a certain kind. And I would say that similarly to her, it took a psychological break for me to actually see through the veil because I was so stressed about something.
Well, it says out of your recognition.
I would hope that it doesn't have to be that way for anybody.
Out of your recognition for your unwillingness for your release, the Holy Spirit's perfect willingness. In other words, any positive gesture that I have, any understanding, any good spirit that I have that goes that way is replaced by the perfect willingness. Perfect.
Right.
It's like a fuse. You light a fuse, which is a little bit
That's
of fire.
That's why it says just a little bit of. I love that line. And your willingness need not be complete because His is perfect. So the willingness, and you can actually internally feel this when you're actually willing to have the Holy Spirit or to see anything a different way. In other words, something that has been plaguing you, and you think that you've let it go, and you think that you've let it go, but you haven't. You think you come up with scenarios of how it would be better if this person would do this, or if the situation would change, and everything else. And you can't help yourself from playing out those scenarios. You go to sleep with them, whatever, and then all of a sudden you go, none of my thoughts are helping me. None of this. I don't know what this needs to look like.
I mentioned Byron Katie. But the reason I'm saying that is because I know from myself and others that we can practice our bondage. We can practice day after day after day by rehearsing the injustices that happen and the cost of the injustices and what difficult situation I'm in because of these things. And we actually are really practicing like I'm out shooting baskets or something. I'm just getting better and better and better at my bondage.
Right.
And when that happens, and we're so insane, we can't really tell the difference between practicing bondage and trying to request freedom. You can't tell the difference.
Right.
I'm going to say, throwing this curve in there, it might be helpful to do Byron Katie and the 4 questions. There might be another tradition, another way out, some other thing to get me so that I break that addiction to what I've been rehearsing.
Right.
The first question is it true? The second question, can you absolutely know that it's true? And the third question, notice how you react, what happens when you believe that thought. And that would be the thought that we're questioning. And then the fourth question, who would you be without that thought in that same situation? Who would you be without the thought? And then I invite people to turn it around. For example, if we were questioning, he doesn't care about me, turned around. And there are 3 ways to turn a thought around: to the self, to the opposite, and to the other. So turned around, he doesn't care about me. To the self, I don't care about him. And then to find examples, and then to make apologies, out of the heart. And these turnarounds, and examples when they're coming out of the heart, out of the spirit of the answer of that 4th question, then it's pure enlightenment, and it's such a joy.
So how did you come up with the 4 questions and the turnaround of the work?
Well, I was very depressed, years of depression, more than a decade of depression, and very suicidal. And one morning, as I lay sleeping on the floor, because I was so full of self-hatred, I didn't believe I even deserved a bed to sleep in. So this particular morning, a cockroach crawled over my foot, woke me up. It really woke me up. And it was like there was no reference. And then all of a sudden, thoughts, I noticed them. And in that moment, I saw an entire world was created. But what's important, Nate, is I saw that when I believed my thoughts, I suffered. And when I didn't believe them, I didn't suffer. And I've come to see that this is true for every human being. So the work was born in that moment on the floor.
So is there anything that we can know for sure, for absolute certain?
In my experience, if anything were true, I call it the last story, God is good, God is everything. And good, God, synonymous with one another. So it would be the goodness that we imagine, the God that we imagine God to be. But everything is good. And anything that would oppose that, we have left ourselves and we're experiencing a separation. We experience ourselves as another, and that's off.
Right. And we don't realize how much we ruminate on certain ideas that get lodged in our brain, and it's there.
Now the spirit will come in, okay? I do think that the spirit, and I think that's what happened with Byron Katie, somehow the spirit can come in at some point, and then you can be released in that domino effect of realizing that all that great stuff you did isn't really worth all that much. All that great stuff you did didn't really go anywhere. Mm-hmm. And all those failures didn't really accumulate. It's really a lot of stories I've told myself. I think the spirit can come in without necessarily doing the work by Byron Katie. But
yeah, I agree. But there are certain forms that help us along the way, and I think it's good to seek out those forms, whether it's the Power of Now or Byron Katie. But both of those have helped me to, relax the mind from getting stuck, because that's where that dismantling has to happen. It's dislodging that word, dislodging the mind.
Well, and there's
from
also
its attachments to the things of my world.
But along those lines, St. Augustine of Hippo, the doctor of the Catholic Church, back in the day, he was tormented. I've gone through this several times, but he's got the archetypal struggle of tension, of mm-hmm. these dominoes. He had a very powerful, well-built life of praise and relationships and all this stuff. He's great. He had everything set up. And yet he was not happy. And his intellect wasn't getting him there. It wasn't getting him there. And he's seeing all of these people. This is in the early Christian church. He's seeing all these people just happy, lit with Jesus and the resurrection mm-hmm. and all this kind of stuff. And he's going, I'm not getting it, I'm not getting it. So he hears some children chanting. He's distraught, okay? He throws himself down in a courtyard and weeps bitterly about his plight of just, I don't get it. I'm not there. I can't get it. And he hears these children chanting, pick up the book and read, pick up the book and read. And so he gets up, and this guy, a friend of his, had left whatever a Bible looked like at that time, and this sheaf of teachings or whatever. Mm-hmm. So he picks it up and he opens it at random at a certain place and reads. For my money, I can't understand why that would enlighten anybody. When I read what it was he said, it just doesn't seem like enough to kick over the dominoes. But it's an answer for him. But for him, internally, it started the whole process mm-hmm. falling. And that's when that was the end of it for him. Mm-hmm. That was mm-hmm. the end of the deal. So
the Holy Spirit wants a gentle transition for us all. And like I said, we just need to recognize how strongly we attach to our ego sense of ourselves. And that's an unfortunate thing that's part of the duality of this world and our special relationships. It's an unfortunate thing. So, everyone has to go at their own time, in their own way.
Okay. Well, I think we've done it.
I think we have. I hope that everyone enjoyed it. I enjoyed it today.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.